Imagine a tiny island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, just south of the equator. It's a speck of coral on limestone, so small you can drive around the entire country in 20 minutes. This is Nauru. It is the smallest island nation on Earth, and its history is one of the most extreme cautionary tales in human history. It is a story of unimaginable wealth, environmental devastation, and a desperate search for a second act. To understand Nauru, you have to look at the ground beneath your feet. For thousands of years, migrating seabirds landed on this island, leaving behind layers of droppings that, over millennia, fossilized into the world's highest grade phosphate. To the outside world, Nauru wasn't a country. It was a pile of white gold. For the first half of the 20th century, colonial powers, the British, Germans, and Australians, mined the island for fertilizer to fuel the agricultural booms of the West. But in 1968, Nauru gained its independence and took control of its own mines. Almost overnight, the people of this tiny island became some of the richest citizens on the planet. By the 1970s, Nauru had the second highest GDP per capita in the world, trailing only Saudi Arabia. The money was everywhere. The government provided free housing, free healthcare, and free education. There were no taxes. The state bought its own airline, Nauru Pacific, with a fleet of planes that flew almost empty to exotic destinations. People flew to Australia just to go shopping. It was a period of surreal, dizzying prosperity. But there was a catch. The wealth was literal. They were quite literally digging up their own island and shipping it away. By the late 1990s, the phosphate started to run out. The center of the island, once a lush tropical forest, had been stripped away, leaving behind a jagged, gray moonscape of limestone pinnacles where nothing could grow and no one could live. The white gold was gone, and the billions of dollars in a national trust fund had been lost to bad investments and international con artists who saw the tiny nation as an easy target. Nauru went from being the richest country in the world to being nearly bankrupt in just a single generation. With their land destroyed and their money gone, the nation had to find new, often controversial ways to survive. In the early 2000s, Nauru became a hub for offshore banking, at one point hosting hundreds of shell banks that existed only on paper, leading to a crackdown by international regulators over money laundering concerns. Later, the island turned to a new source of income, the Pacific Solution. Nauru agreed to host an offshore detention center for the Australian government, housing asylum seekers who were trying to reach Australia by boat. This brought in much-needed revenue, but it also brought intense international scrutiny and criticism over human rights conditions on the island. The physical toll on the island has been matched by a health crisis. Before the mining boom, Nauruans lived on a traditional diet of fish and coconuts. The sudden influx of wealth brought processed, imported foods. Today, Nauru has some of the highest rates of type 2 diabetes and obesity in the world. It is a stark reminder of how rapidly a culture can be transformed by sudden external wealth. But Nauru is more than its scars. It is a community of roughly 12,000 people with a resilient culture and a language that is unlike any other in the Pacific. They are a people who have seen the highs and lows of the global economy from the front row. Today, there are efforts to rehabilitate the top side of the island, the mined-out center, to make it habitable again. and a renewed focus on sustainable fishing and solar energy. The story of Nauru is a mirror for the rest of the planet. It is a microcosm of the resource curse. The idea that having too much of a single natural resource can actually hinder a country's long-term development. It shows us what happens when we prioritize short-term extraction over long-term sustainability. Nauru is a place that was once a paradise, then a mine, then a bank, and then a detention center. But through it all, it remains a home. It is a tiny limestone rock in a vast blue desert, fighting to redefine itself after the gold has run out. It is a reminder that wealth is fleeting, but the land is forever. And once the land is gone, no amount of money can easily buy it back. When you look at the jagged limestone pillars of Nauru, do you see a graveyard of a vanished fortune? Or do you see a foundation upon which a more sustainable nation can finally be built? Thanks for watching.